of Terry Pratchett usually finds itself irresistibly represented by Discworld, a flat, circular planet that rests on the back of 4 elephants, which are, in turn, standing on the back of a giant turtle. Don't ask what the turtle stands on. You may as well ask what the sound yellow makes.
Wait, what sound does yellow make? Because I kind of picture it being like this little...
No. Guitars are yellow. Yellow is guitar. Guitars kind of fall on yellow, and a lot of other string instruments fall in the orangey and yellowy era.
Yeah, because you have synesthesia.
Yeah. Yeah, guitars are yellow. The note beat latch is yellow.
Oh, that's cool. Welcome to This Is Lit, a podcast where we drink and talk about our favorite books. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Casey.
So raise a glass and let's get started.
Okay, Liz, what are you drinking today?
I am drinking my new obsession. It is from Somerset Ridge Vineyard and Winery, which is where I work.
AKA where Liz works.
Where I work. And I am drinking our Nouveau, which is based off of the Nouveaux that come out of Beaujolais, France, and they release these Nouveaux about...
Nouveau just means new, right?
Yes, it means new. And they release these Nouveaux about the 2nd to 3rd week of November, and they are kind of like a preview of the wine that was harvested that season. So our Nouveau is actually made with our 2018 Marquette grape that was harvested end of July this year. Mm-hmm. And it's very fruity and lively and bubbly. Yeah,
Can
you should.
Try it?
Yeah, definitely try it. It's you get kind of a little. I like to say it dances on your tongue, so it's got like a little finish with it on your tongue, and it's really nice
like
and
that.
bright and lovely.
It's not sweet.
No, it's not sweet.
It's really distinctively
but it's definitely
fruity.
it's definitely fruity. Aged in stainless steel. It is so
I like
good.
it. It's not bad for a red wine.
I love it. As soon as we got it, I drank half a bottle of it in the bathtub one night.
I am drinking Italia Roscato Rosso Dolce. It's a sweet red that Liz brought me. It's got notes of cherry, blackberry, and red raspberry. Fruit-forward red complements barbecue dishes, pasta,
Can
and
I try
red cream sauces, breaded cutlets, and spicier fare. And it's actually one of those red wines that you enjoy chilled.
Oh, that smells fruity.
It's really sweet. You might not like it.
That tastes like Buffalo Red. Yeah, okay, there it is.
It's really sweet. It's really sweet. I like it. It's like red wines answer to Moscato, basically.
Yeah. No.
I can dig it.
Nope.
Dig it. The nice thing about sweet wines that I don't think you understand is if you're drinking a sweet wine, you have to drink it slower.
That would make a good mulled wine, though.
Yeah?
Yeah?
I use Cab Sav for mulled wine. I make mulled wine myself at home.
We make it at the winery. We use our Buffalo Red.
I make it at home.
And our Flyboy Red.
I use
our Avalon.
A cheap Cab Sav, and then I mix in the spices to taste on my own terms.
When we make mulled wine, we use it. We make it using our Buffalo Red, which is a semi-sweet red.
Yeah, I've had
red,
Buffalo.
And then we dump half a bottle of our Avalon, which is brandy flavored apples in it, and then we put
that apple brandy we had last time?
Yes. When we watched Hocus Pocus for the first time, and Karina had never seen it.
Karina's first time.
We had both seen it, but it's like, how had Karina never seen Hocus Pocus?
Because she's a baby.
That is true.
Today,
yes,
we are reading Terry Pratchett's Hogfather. It is part of the Discworld universe, but I don't know where it actually sits in the Discworld.
It is book 20.
Okay, sure. Have you ever read any Discworld before?
I read the very first Discworld in high school, and then I got distracted by the Dresden Files.
There are...
Which I have not finished.
How many Discworld novels are there?
I think there's like 48. There's almost 50.
Yeah.
There's quite a few.
How many Discworld novels are there?
According to Hanging Together, if you know it, you love it. If you don't know it, I highly encourage you to explore it. There are over 40 books in the series, and I've read them all, many more than once.
I don't know if you can hear that, but there are over 40 books in the Discworld
How has
series.
Google read all the books?
Google loves books.
Google is terrifying.
Anyway, this is like the 20-something book in the Discworld series. Liz has read the first one. I own the first one on Kindle, but I have never read it. I just know that Discworld takes place on a flat world. It's like,
Oh, I read The Color of Magic as well.
yeah,
That was a good one.
So, Discworld is a world that's like just a little left of center of where the regular world is.
Yes.
So, like, there's
wizards.
There's wizards, and there's magic, but then there's also, like I noticed at one point they're, like, talking about malls, but instead of M-A-L-L-S, like a shopping center, it's like M-A-U-L-S.
Which is kind of the same thing if you think about it. It's a lot of peopling.
It's like, it's almost the same as the regular world,
Almost.
but not quite. And then you see the entrance of characters that you might not see on day-to-day in life, but that are ostensibly involved, like
Yes.
Death, and like
The Tooth Fairy.
and
And Old Man Trouble.
Okay. Or he'll show up. Jack Frost.
Are you kidding me? After the week I've had, he's been living in my house.
You don't want to mess with Old Man Trouble. And while we have Santa Claus, the Discworld answer to that is the Hogfather.
Yes, the Hogfather.
Instead of traveling around in a sleigh pulled by
Magical
10 reindeer, he's pulled around by 4 pigs. Hogs. And instead of eating milk and cookies, he eats radishes and pork pies and drinks sherry.
Which, you know, if we have any small children listening to this, which I hope there aren't, because we swear
God,
a lot.
no. This podcast is aged 13 and up.
I'd say 18 and older.
13 and up. 13-year-old says fuck all the time. You know that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so, if you have any 13-year-olds in the audience who have younger siblings who know Santa is coming this Christmas.
Right.
Or has come this past Christmas. It might be Christmas.
Christmas! Merry Christmas!
3 sips in, y'all. Maybe leaving Santa a sandwich and a nice cold beer might be good for you. Get a few extra presents.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Sorry, we'll get into the novel in a minute. If you were Santa, what would be the ideal snack and drink for them to leave out for you?
Are you kidding me? Chardonnay and creme brulee.
Chardonnay and creme brulee. Rhymes. If I was Santa, the ideal snack left out for me would be coffee.
Ooh, coffee's a good one.
And for the snack?
Or cannolis. I will also take cannolis.
That's fair. I'd say coffee and apple pie. Ooh, I love pie.
I'll make apple crisp for friend Christmas this year. I know we were talking about traditions last episode.
You're good people, Elizabeth.
I know last episode we were talking about traditions, and friend Christmas is definitely one of the traditions that I am very fond of.
If I was Santa, I would most prefer coffee and apple pie.
Okay.
Elizabeth for Chardonnay and creme brulee.
Yeah.
Because she's a fancy bitch.
The Real Housewives of Overland Park. Someone get me that wine glass.
The Real Housewives of Johnson County.
Yeah, Johnson
Not
County.
just OP. If you're local, you know what we're talking about.
No, seriously, there is a wine glass that says Real Housewives of Johnson County on it, and I need it.
Oh my God. Oh, buddy.
Except I work.
So, the Hogfather.
Yes.
The story begins
with Susan.
Susan.
God bless Susan.
Susan is a governess.
Yes.
And the daughter of
a duchess.
A daughter of a duke.
Which
and
Morty, her father, actually worked his way up to duke.
And she is also the granddaughter
of Death.
Of Death himself.
Death himself.
Susan's interesting.
I adore Susan.
I would argue again. Okay, so wait. Time out. Let's
back up the train.
Let's rewind a little bit. Full disclosure. I have only reached page 135 of the 354-page long novel.
Why is that, Casey?
Let me tell you, Liz.
I would love to hear it. Allow me to sidle back with my glass of Nouveau and stare at you lovingly. While
This
you explain.
is a call-out post for the U.S. Postal Service. When Liz and I decided Hogfather was going to be one of our holiday novels this year, I ordered it off of Amazon 3 weeks ago. I don't have Amazon Prime because I think Amazon is a criminal enterprise, and I hate it, but it's also really useful. So it's a complicated situation.
I do, however, have Amazon Prime, and I love it.
I don't have Amazon Prime, so I was like, 3 weeks should be plenty of time to get this novel and get it read. So according to my tracking information, I was supposed to receive it on Monday. Of course, I did not receive it on Monday because Monday was Veterans Day. That's fine. I understand. Like, everybody has to have holidays, and Veterans Day, I don't like war, but I do appreciate what our people in the Army and the military have done.
Agreed.
So that's fine. So I should have gotten it on Tuesday. But the office, I have all of my packages into my office that I work at because my mailbox at home is very tiny and I don't want my packages just sitting out on the floor, which is where the mailman drops them if they are sent to my house.
And then Lord knows who can get your packages.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we had our Indian food stolen once. We had delivery food and it was stolen by
Yeah, you told me about that. That's terrible.
Yeah. So anyway, I have my packages into the office. My office doesn't open until 3 on Tuesdays. My boss was in the office starting at about 9 in the morning, and she had the lights on, but I guess the mailman didn't even try the door. Like, even though the lights were on, he saw, like, the sign and was like, oh, we're closed. And so he didn't even try the door. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll get it on Wednesday. So Wednesday, I was on my lunch break from 1 to 3, working on some stuff at the front desk, sitting at the front desk with all the lights on, like, visible through the window, and the mail, I never even saw a mail truck come in the parking lot. But about 5 o'clock that afternoon, I got a notification. It was like, oh, we attempted your delivery at like 1:30 and you weren't there. And I was like, nobody tried the door. And if I'm correct, I don't think even a mail truck even pulled into the parking lot.
For those of you who are on audio, I have some pretty epic resting bitch face right now.
Yeah. So that was Wednesday. So Thursday, I was like, okay, well, maybe Thursday I'll get it. Thursday, the mailman did not even come.
What?
At all.
Why?
Because I was, like, waiting on some insurance billing stuff, and we didn't get it.
Oh, my God.
So, like, our numbers and, like, our system were problematic, and then I also didn't get my book. So, the mailman showed up at about 1:45 on Friday, and we closed at 1 on Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
We have half days, because my boss is like, we have long days every other day. You deserve to have a half day on Friday. We closed at 1, but we were waiting for her to write our paychecks, and so we were still there at 1:30. He pulled up, and I saw him drive past our door slow, like he was reading the sign, and then start to drive off. And then my coworker, like, ran outside and, like, hailed him down to make him come back. So I got the book at, like, 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday.
So are you saying the mailman did not come to your office for almost a full week?
That is what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I got this book on
when?
Friday about 2 o'clock. I already had tickets to a movie at 3 o'clock on Friday. And then I had to go to Topeka for work with my other job, my acting job, on Saturday. So I did not get to start the book until, because today is Sunday. If you don't know out there, listeners, it is Sunday that we're recording. I did not start the book until about 10 o'clock this morning. And I got pretty fucking far.
You got far.
I got halfway through the book, and then at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I had to be on video conferences for my acting job from 2 to 4.
Which that made me really angry. Casey and I are part of the same acting group, but that made me really angry that we got the email quite literally the night before.
Yeah, so anyway.
And I work Sundays.
Liz and I was on video conferences from 2 to 4 today, and Liz showed up here about like 5.
Yeah.
And we had dinner. So I had from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. to read this whole book. So full disclosure, folks, I did not finish the book. I got about halfway through. And then I Wikipedia'd the rest so that we could discuss it.
We'll see how well I remember the end of the book.
I tried really hard. I tried really hard to read the book. But
that is something that is particular of Christmas, is that we all have obligations. And Casey and I are part of the same acting troupe.
Which is the busiest during
This
the
is
Christmas
the busiest
season.
time of year for us.
Because a lot of people like to have corporate Christmas parties with a murder mystery.
I'm already on 2 shows in 1 week.
I'm scheduled for 4 shows already.
Oh,
coming up. This week I don't have anything because it's Thanksgiving and I'm going to be in
And the last
Arkansas.
2 weeks of December aren't even cast yet.
Yeah, and so I'm already cast out through the middle of December. We're really busy, and like these episodes will go up on time. They will. I'll make it happen. But my editing time is severely depleted, so I apologize to everybody that I don't have the book finished. But I really liked what I read of it so far.
Yes. Well, and I love Terry Pratchett because he is half the brainchild of Good Omens, which is one of our favorite books.
Yes, and I definitely saw his voice here the same way I did in Good Omens when I started
Most
reading
definitely.
this book.
I'm pretty positive Terry Pratchett wrote pretty much all of the Xeroth.
Yeah. Yeah. So this book takes place in Discworld.
Which, people, the world cannot end before January because we need to see Good Omens.
Oh, I'm so pumped about that. I'm not ready. I'm so excited. I'm not ready.
We'll get through it together. We'll watch it together. We'll get through it together. I promise. Okay.
Karina and I
Stop playing with my corkscrew. You'll hurt yourself.
I need a fidget toy. That's why I had your phone last episode.
Okay, here. It's better than the lighter.
Listen, it's the ADHD. I just need something to fuck with. So anyway, sorry, sidebar, that was my complaint and call out to the U.S. Postal Service for being shitty and not doing their job. I'm sure there are male persons who do their jobs very well, but the male person that we have right now is new and doesn't seem to understand that we don't actually take breaks. Like, just because we're on lunch doesn't mean the door is locked.
You know what it reminds me of? Jamie from Steven Universe.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, I'm supposed to be delivering this mail, but I'm so in love with Garnet.
Yeah.
Hi, Allie. I miss you.
Yeah. So anyway, I basically have had this book for less than 72 hours.
Yeah.
And of those
I'm
72 hours, I've only had about 7 to read during.
I had the audiobook, of course, because I read all of our books on Audible, which Audible really needs to sponsor us.
Hi, Audible.
Listen to our podcast. I listen to all of our books on Audible pretty much. Because
Audible.com. They have good audiobooks. This message sponsored by This Is Lit.
we have no code for you to get a free month of Audible, but please still use them and listen to our podcast.
We'll talk to him. It'll be fun. So we're 20 minutes into this conversation. We haven't even gotten to the book.
Right.
So the book starts with Susan, who is a governess / daughter of a duke / granddaughter of death.
Which the name Twyla is very nice. Well done, Terry Pratchett.
Twyla.
I would never use it for a child, but I would use it for a character. I feel like there's a difference between character names and children names.
Like, literally in the book, at some point, Susan criticizes the fact that the children she is governess for are named as such, Twyla and Gawain. It's a little much.
Gawain is King Arthur.
Yeah, I know. But
at least.
I would never name my child after a knight of the
Round
Table.
No, like I said, they're good character names, but they're not good children names.
At any rate, the book starts with Susan, who is governess to Twyla and Gawain, who are little kids that have had a previous governess who threatened them with monsters.
Yes.
So anytime they were
monsters in the basement, monsters if you stepped on a crack,
monsters under the bed.
Yes.
Basically, anytime the kids did something
she tried to scare the children into behaving.
She told them that monsters would do this or that to them if they...
And now Susan says if she ever meets the woman, she's going to beat her senseless.
Because...
With the fire poker. The fire poker is a theme in the book.
The fire poker is a theme. But anyway, so Susan starts the book off by dispatching a monster in the basement with a fire poker. Because when the children believe strongly enough in these monsters, they become real.
Yes.
Which is also another theme in the book, is belief. And
did you ever believe in something so strongly that your parents went to lengths to confirm it?
I have very practical parents. Or I should say my father is very practical. When I was...
Did you get certain holiday figures at least?
I want to say that I was...
I don't want to out anything on this podcast in case we have small children, which I hope you're not that small.
If you're a small child, stop listening right now. It is 19 minutes and 53 seconds in. When I was probably 8 or 9 years old,
yeah,
my father sat me down at the dining room table and told me Santa Claus is not real.
That's terrible.
My dad...
That's awful.
My dad is...
Oh, no.
My dad is very religious, and he was like, we're going to put presents under the tree that are addressed from Santa to you, but you understand that those were from your stepmom.
My
and I.
mother let me believe in Santa until I was 12.
Oh no, I was probably 7 or 8.
That's awful.
My dad just was kind of first off, he's of the belief that Christmas is more about Jesus and the birth of Jesus and all that, the Christian story.
Okay, Christmas is Saturnalia, which is the festival of the new risen sun. And
it's very pagan.
yeah, Christmas is super pagan.
But
so
my dad is very religious, and so he was very much of the mindset that like Christmas should be about Jesus, and we always read, Luke chapter 2 at Christmas before we were allowed to open any presents. So we all knew at elementary school age that Santa was not there.
That's terrible.
So Santa, like, we enjoy it. Like, I mean, even now, my stepmom still puts Santa's name on presents that she gets.
See, my mom
but
still
we all are of the understanding that it's not.
Even though my mom, like, I found out when I was 12 years old that Santa was a fiction. But my mom said, well, now that you know that, you can become Santa for someone else. And
That's
so,
interesting.
yeah.
So
she's like, you either believe in Santa or you become Santa.
That's cute.
So I'm like, that's a good kind of mentality to have, is that you either believe in Santa or you become Santa for someone else. And so she's like, well, now that you know, we're able to help someone else.
I didn't realize how strongly a lot of adults feel about letting kids believe in Santa because I was informed that Santa wasn't real at such a young age.
That's awful.
I didn't realize how important it was to other adults. Same thing with like the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy. Like,
well, it's because Santa and the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy are symbolisms of childhood and innocence, and we're like, let's let kids believe in them as long as we can.
That was not how I grew up.
That was how I grew up.
My experience was these are not real things, but will allow you to pretend for that day if it's fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, my mom still gives my brother and I presents from Santa. And we know it's her and my dad. But she still does it. Because she's like, this is to remind you that you're Santa for someone else.
Yeah, that's nice. I just didn't really have that as a kid growing up. Which is a lot of the book is predicated on this concept of children believing.
Yes.
In the
Hogfather, a lot of this book is predicated on belief. Not just of children.
But of anybody.
But of adults. And because it is alluded to early on in the book that the traditions we have now have been watered down from the traditions of the past where everything involved blood.
Yes.
I say as I'm pouring more Nouveau.
More red wine.
More red wine.
The book starts off with Susan dispatching a monster in the basement, but also it starts off with auditors. They just call themselves
the auditors. Hiring someone from the guild.
Appearing at the Assassin's Guild to hire someone to kill the Hogfather.
Which, that's very Skyrim. Assassin's Guild.
Yeah.
Or Dragon Age. I say since your dog is named Zevron and Malcolm and Anders.
Zevron in the Dragon Age series. Sidebar, I'm really sorry. Zevron is actually part of the Crows, which is a guild of assassins.
Oh, that explains it for your doggo.
Mm-hmm.
He's a sweet boy, though.
He would never assassinate anyone.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You have Dragon Age, we have the Roman pantheon of goddesses. We have Luna, Vesta, and Venus. So, right.
So anyway, these beings, these celestial beings called the Auditors, show up at the Assassin's Guild and are like, we need someone murdered.
And they are a collective entity.
Right. The moment
kind of like the city council from Welcome to Night Vale.
Yes, it is very reminiscent of them. The moment they even think of themselves in the individual, they actually die immediately.
Yes, and that is displayed in this book.
So they show up at the Assassin's Guild and ask for the assassination of
the Hogfather.
The Hogfather, essentially Santa Claus. And the leader of the Assassin's Guild finds this very troubling, finds it difficult to understand how that could be a thing that could happen.
But he is paid, so he finds a way to make it happen.
He's
using
$3 million, so he calls upon
Mr. Tiatime.
Mr. Tiatime. Tiatime? It's spelled tea time. Mr. Tea Time.
Yeah, it's Mr. Tea Time. But he says it's pronounced Tietima, yes.
Mr. Tietima, Mr. Tea Time, whatever, is, even within the Assassin's Guild, he is considered to be
creepy.
a fucking creep. Which, that, like,
They're
if,
like, you're
if
supposed
assassins
to...
find you creepy, you're probably
Because
the
they're
worst.
like, there's nothing wrong with a job well done, but having a job well
enjoys it
done
too much.
is just, they're like, there is no reason to kill members of the entire household. Just do your target and get out. And Tietema killed like somebody's dog. He killed the entire household.
And
he's
their
like,
maid and their butler and
yeah,
their
he's
dog,
like, you're not supposed to take pleasure in a messy job.
but he does.
But he does.
He's a sociopath. He's very creepy. He's a good villain. A really good villain.
He is an excellent villain.
And he is
If
assigned...
Johnny Depp's Willy Wonka went off the deep end, it would be Tietima.
Don't say stuff like that, because then he'll think he can go play it, and I don't want to see him in movies.
No. Johnny Depp, please stop being in movies.
Johnny Depp, please stop being in movies. Don't listen to
Hashtag
our
not
podcast.
Mike Grindelwald.
Anywho, so Mr. Tietima is assigned the Hogfather, and
He hires a bunch of
a
vagabonds.
bunch of thugs to join him and help him in this process.
Yes.
Now, the book is not linear or chronological in any way.
But that is because a lot of the places where Tietima is, time does not apply. Same thing with Susan.
It's kind of complicated because I'm reading the book, and I read, like I said, I didn't finish the book, and I read the Wikipedia page, and the Wikipedia page is written chronologically, which was confusing because it was not revealed to me while reading the book that certain things had happened.
So what happens at this point is this whole thing is going on. Tietima hires like a carriage driver and kills him, and they end up going somewhere that is not supposed to exist with his band of thugs.
Yes.
Meantime,
Susan is at home with the kids.
And time stops, and the Hogfather arrives to fill the stockings, and she realizes
The Hogfather is not the Hogfather.
it is her grandfather, Death.
Literally,
as the Hogfather.
the Grim Reaper with a fucking cushion underneath his suit
Which falls out.
and a fake beard on his face.
Going ho 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 ho.
Because Death is literally a skeleton in a big black robe.
Yes, and
And
now
then
he is a skeleton in a big black robe with a Hogfather suit on over it,
And a fake beard.
and
And a cushion under his suit.
with his compatriot who drinks all the sherry and eats all the pork pies.
But not the radishes.
Correct. What was his name? Forget. It's something ridiculous.
It's like...
I've had too much wine.
His name is...
I read this one first, so this one's a little bit fuzzier to me. Keep in mind, this is also Casey and I's first reading of The Hogfather. I had never read it before, so I don't have it committed to my short-term memory.
What is his name?
I don't have my phone. I left it outside so it didn't ring, so I can't Google
God.
it.
He's like an imp. His name?
He is Death's assistant pretty much, and he calls him Master, and he's kind of gross.
He's fine.
Yeah, he's fine, but he can't return to the mortal plane, or else he would die. But the Hogfather rules. The plane the Hogfather exists in, it's not the mortal plane. It's something a little bit more spiritual. This is neat.
I'm working on it. This is going to be a bad episode.
We're going to need to do a lot of editing.
Albert! His name's
Albert! Like
The
Prince
fucking-
Albert
like the-
in a can.
Like the ghost.
Albert, you were an excellent Albert.
Thanks.
We miss you. Can you come back? What about in February? We're doing it every other month.
Maybe.
Okay.
We'll see. Anyway,
For anyone listening, we're talking about Radio Free Puppets. which I write all the scripts for, and Casey has occasionally performed an excellent Ghost King for us.
Well, at any rate, Albert and Death are flying around in a sleigh pulled by pigs,
Leaving presents
and
for small children.
they show up at Susan's because Susan, of course, is
Governing for Gawain
children.
and Twilight.
So, of course, they have to leave presents for Gawain and Twilight.
Yes.
And Death talks to Susan and kind of is very cagey about what's going on.
Here's the thing. The thing I adore about Twilight is she does the little lisp to seem cuter, and Susan calls her out on it. She's like, no, you don't have to appear to be this cute, naive little girl in order to survive the world. Just be yourself, and you'll survive just fine.
Right.
Same thing with, like, Twyla when she leaves her letter to the Hogfather, and he's like, it says here she's 5 years old, and it's like she's 7. She thought it would get sympathy. And so it's like, Twyla is a Slytherin. Twyla is cute, and she's totally a Slytherin. Because she's like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get what I want.
At any rate,
I love Twyla as a character. I love Susan as a character. They're fantastic
Susan
women.
clearly wants nothing to do with supernatural or with her
Yes. She
family.
wants to be normal, or else she'll forget what doorknobs are for.
Yeah, because Susan, having spent a lot of her childhood visiting her grandfather, can walk through walls and can do all these supernatural things that
She can use the voice.
which in the book is portrayed in all caps,
Yes.
without quotation marks. It's a special voice that only Death can use, and it's very
You tell me the truth, because death sees all.
right. So she has all those abilities, but she tries not to use them because she wants to be a normal human girl. And then her grandfather, Death, shows up at the house, and she's immediately upset that he's there. But he and Albert both kind of are very cagey about why they're there and why he is dressed as the Hogfather. And at first you think they just don't want her to know. And as time goes on, you realize that they're intentionally being cagey with the hope that she will get involved, because there are certain rules in place that keep Death from interfering with the way things are happening.
Yeah, and then at the meantime, at the School of Wizardry, the headmaster
It's not in his bathroom.
has found a bathroom, which you wouldn't think this is important. What's his name? Starts with an R.
Runnell? So,
Good lord.
he finds a bathroom, and
He demands it open.
It's barred up. The door is nailed over with a bunch of boards, and he demands it open because he's tired of sharing a bathroom with all of the other people who live at the wizardry school.
Yes.
And he uses the shower, and there's a bunch of different knobs, including one called Old Faithful that shoots geysers into the air. And in this bathroom, he meets the gnome of Verucas.
Yes, which
if
warts.
you don't know, is footwarts.
Footwarts.
It's basically athlete's foot. I didn't know. I had to look it up because the only knowledge I had of the word Veruca was Veruca salt from Willy Wonka.
Yeah, it's a type of wart.
But Veruca is an athlete's foot wart on your foot. So the same way there's a tooth fairy who takes away your teeth. Now
There is a Veruca gnome who brings you warts on your feet.
But the thing is, the Veruca gnome has just recently
Did you
appeared
ever
out
have-
of nowhere.
Did you ever have athlete's foot?
I have a wart on my foot right now. It's not athlete's foot. It's just a wart. It's been there for months.
That happened to me in middle school, and after that, I was determined to never let my feet touch the floor in the girls' locker room at my middle school.
I mean, I was really good about it because I was a camp counselor,
Okay.
and so I wore flip flops into the bathrooms, and I showered with the shoes on, plastic thongs, and
Yeah, well, see, with me, it was I would sit and I would put my feet on the floor for 5 seconds and then change into my shoes, and that's all it took.
yeah,
So from then on, I was very careful never to let my feet touch the floor.
yeah. No, it's really
Which
easy.
kind of explains my brother's obsession with socks.
It's really easy to get athletes, but
Yeah.
So anyway, the thing about the Veruca gnome is that he didn't exist. until
the night before Hogswatch, which
The
is
night
their
before.
Christmas.
the 32nd of December,
Yes, the 32nd of December, which is also the night before their New Year.
the last day of the year.
Yeah.
Which, if you think that Christmas Eve and New Year's being a week apart is a lot, God, I can't imagine having them on the same night. New Year's Eve is also Christmas Eve. Fucking no.
Lord. But that kind of makes sense, actually, that the Festival of the Risen Sun would be right around New Year's.
Right. Because the Hogfather brings the sun,
Yes.
which everyone seems to have conveniently forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it comes out that Mr. Tiatema
Yes.
has gone into an alternate realm, the realm of, like, children's imagination.
Which the house that they use is interesting, because Susan sees the drawing of this house after she's looked around for a while, and she's gone to the Hogfather's castle, which...
Right, it was this big scary ice castle.
It was this big, the Castle of Bones.
Castle Bones. Yeah.
Which everyone has made to appear jolly, even though it sounds horrifying. And it's this big castle of ice, and there she finds the god of hangovers.
The oh god of hangovers.
The oh god. Because he's like, oh god, which we both are very familiar with this gentleman.
We're gonna feel it tomorrow.
Oh
God.
Oh god.
The god of hangovers. The oh god of hangovers.
The oh god of hangovers.
Didn't exist before either.
I'd also like to be well acquainted with the other oh god, but I don't think he exists.
So Bilius, the oh god of hangovers, did not exist until this night as well. Same as the Veruca. No. So there's all these, like, new beings coming into existence
being.
out of nowhere.
Yes.
And it slowly becomes apparent that what has happened is that Mr. Tiatema has gone into the realm of children's imaginations.
Yes, which you can tell because the world that they go into, which Susan and Bilius eventually go into, is there is green below them, blue above them, and nothing in between. And there is a house, which they realize this is a children's drawing. Everyone is just born innately knowing a certain place, and it is this children's drawing. It's like children can live no matter what, and they will always do this red house with 2 windows and a door with green on the bottom and sky above, and they will not understand that the horizon goes all the way. So this is just innately the Tooth Fairy's castle, wherever the Tooth Fairy lives. Children innately know this.
So what Mr. Tiatema has done is stolen all the teeth of children.
Yes.
And therefore now has control over those children.
Yes, because it is very old magic that if you own a piece of someone, you can control them. This is very prominent in, like, a lot of, like, urban fantasy literature even now, especially in the Dresden Files. This thing I remember is, like, if you get their hair, their blood, their fingernails, or their toenails, which this is even brought up in the wizarding aspect of the school in Hogfather, is that if you own a piece of someone, you can do nasty bit of magic on someone.
Yeah.
So
Mr. Tiatema uses the teeth of all these children.
Yes, because you can't just leave teeth lying around. So they have kidnapped this tooth fairy named Violet.
And they have taken the teeth of all the children that she has collected, and now they have control of all those children's thoughts.
Yes, and that is how they
killed the Hogfather.
Removed the Hogfather from existence.
Because he's essentially an immortal god.
But he only is an immortal god as long as people believe in him.
It's very much like American gods, Neil Gaiman.
It is. It's
a god
gods only exist
as
if you
long
believe
as
in them.
there's someone to believe in them.
Exactly.
And so Mr. Tiatema uses the teeth of the children to make them stop believing in the Hogfather, and he ceases to be.
Exactly.
Now, Death is the only person who remembers that the Hogfather also is in charge of the sun.
Yes, and so he is going around the world pretending to be the Hogfather.
In the hopes of keeping the sun from not ever rising again.
Yes, in order to keep people believing in the Hogfather. And then this brings in a lot of conundrums. Death is not a very He does not think in
He's very
gray.
literally minded.
He is. He is very literally minded. There is a scene where a king gives the rest, the leftovers of his feast to a pauper. And the only thing the pauper wants is to eat his beans with just a little bit of pork in them, and that is enough for him. And so the king gives the pauper this feast and gets really upset that the pauper is not grateful that this king is bestowing this feast upon him. And so Death / Hogfather shows up and is like, this isn't right, and gives the pauper what he wants, which is his feast of beans with a little bit of pork fat in them and a pork head, and, you know, he gives him what he needs instead of what he wants.
Yeah.
And Death realizes that the only reason the king is giving the leftovers of his feast to his pauper is to make himself feel better about himself.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, that's not why you give. You give because it's the right thing to do. You don't give to feel better about yourself.
Right.
And so Albert at this point is like, oh no, things are getting out of hand. And Death does a lot of this quite a bit as a Hogfather, like the little match girl situation. I don't know if you got to that point
I
in the
didn't
book.
get to that.
But there is a point in the book where Death has, each person has an hourglass of life. And when when it gets low, Death goes to collect. And not always in person, but sometimes in person, just to make sure things are working the way they should. And there is a little match girl who is freezing to death. You know, everyone has that little, the Russian, I believe it's Russian folklore literature, where there's this little match girl, and she's selling matches, and she can't sell matches, and so she freezes to death on the street, so she lights the matches to try to keep herself warm, and it fails, and she freezes to death.
Right.
But Death, as the Hogfather, gives her more time in her hourglass. So he picks her up and gives her to someone and says, keep her warm. And he's like, the Hogfather gives gifts. There is no greater gift than the gift of the future.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is the way he's like, this is what's right. Because he's like, this is what, there's a difference between right and wrong, and there is a line.
Right.
And you don't cross it. He's not interested in kind of the gray areas. Where, like, even when he is portraying the Hogfather at the mall in the book, they have, you know, these little kids go up and they ask for presents. They tell him what they want for Hogswatch, and he gives it to them. Like, this little girl wants a sword, and her mom is like, no, you want a doll, and the Hogfather is like, well, she wants a sword, so I'm giving her a sword because that's what's right. And I'm like, well, as much as I am a fan of if a little girl wants a sword, she gets a sword, the rest of me is like, you probably shouldn't give a deadly sword to a child.
To a 7-year-old. Yeah. So, at any rate, it turns out that Death was being super evasive with Susan because he wanted her natural human curiosity
to investigate, because Death is forbidden from interfering with the auditors.
So, he is trying to save the Hogfather without interfering.
Yes.
So he involves his granddaughter, whose natural human
And
curiosity...
he's like, if you recall, I told her not to interfere, and she interferes anyway.
So her natural human curiosity leads her to find the God of Hangovers.
Yes.
And
she takes the God of Hangovers to the Hidden University in Arnampuk.
To find out how to cure his hangovers.
To cure his hangovers, which the hangover cure sounds absolutely atrocious. I never, ever, ever, ever want to drink this shit. It just sounds horrifying. Which is where Hex, the magical thinking machine, aka a computer, exists.
Yeah.
Which,
he's like Cleverbot.
Yeah, he is. He's a Cleverbot.
Cleverbot is
Rig Cully! That's the wizard's name, is Rig Cully.
Yeah.
Arch-Chancellor Rig Cully. Can't believe I forgot that.
Listen.
That's the wine.
So anyway, Susan eventually figures out that these gods, or these deities, these beings, like the Veruca
are popping into existence
and the God of Hangovers are popping into existence
Because there is extra belief in the universe.
Because the belief in the Hogfather has dissipated.
Yes. And so since there is extra belief in the universe, all these characters like Jack Frost and Father Trouble and all that are popping into existence.
Mm-hmm.
The dude with the bowler hat and the cigar. Is that better?
Who's?
You know, the guy who causes problems that I'm not supposed to talk about. Old Man Trouble, yes. Who's been living at my house for the last week. Okay, y'all. Liz is gonna go into a rant now.
Oh, buddy.
Liz is gonna go into a rant now. If you are a 45-year-old woman and you run a fucking red light and hit somebody who is half your age, don't try and lie to the police officer and not claim credit for the accident because you don't want to pay for it. Because I've been driving around I've been existing with like no car for 3 days because of you. But it did allow me to drive a Camaro for a couple days, so that's not a bad thing.
Anyway.
Liz has had a lot of wine.
Anyway. So Susan figures out that the Hogfather's been killed because of this lack of belief.
Mm-hmm.
And Death is trying to bring back
He's
the
not
belief.
exactly been killed. He just doesn't exist in the same way he did.
He's a pig.
Oh, shit. So, they saved the Hogfather.
Yes. Well,
because the auditors are dogs.
The auditors are awful. The auditors are awful.
The auditors.
Susan discovers about Violet the Tooth Fairy being kidnapped.
Right.
And so she goes to find Violet the Tooth Fairy. So she goes to the Tooth Fairy Castle in the Realm of Children and meets Tia Time, and
they fight.
He
tries to kill her, but you can't kill people in the
Death
Realm of Children.
Death doesn't exist to a child.
That's why Death can't go there. Death, capital D. Because Death,
But
lowercase d, doesn't exist there. So she fights him, he tries to kill her, he fails, and she pushes him off a tower.
Yes, and all the gentlemen who Tia Time had hired disappeared due to things that they were afraid of as children. Like one of them is the wardrobe, another one of them it's the scissor man because he sucked his thumb, which I sucked my thumb, and that never happened.
Did anyone tell you about scissor man?
No one.
What were you afraid of as a kid?
I was afraid of the dark.
Really?
Yeah. I was afraid of the dark as a child. I was terrified of it.
Huh.
Because I'm like, if I can see shit coming, I can deal with it. But if it was one of those things that like I couldn't see anything coming, I was terrified. I didn't like the. Okay, I wasn't terrified of the dark. I was terrified of what the dark did.
I wasn't afraid of it.
No, but you're a badass bitch, and I am a wimp, so...
No, I was just Dean Winchester. I was just a child put in charge of another child.
Yeah, when your father... when you say you're afraid of the monster of the closet, your father should have had you a Colt 45.
And yet.
But no, I was definitely afraid of the dark. I slept with my lights on for most of my life when I was a small child. I did. I slept with the lights on a lot. But I was never afraid of, like, the monster under the bed. I was afraid of the dark. Because I didn't like the dark. Because, you know, I'm kind of sensitive to stuff like that. And I mean, like, nothing happened where our house was built. But something happened to me one night while it was dark, and I never liked the dark again. So that was the end of it for me. I never liked the dark. And now I am like, I can't sleep unless all the lights are out. There's no light coming in from anywhere. I'm like, it needs to be pitch black for me to sleep.
So, Mr. Tiatima doesn't have any of his ruffians to help him because they were all.
And Susan is like, you're the person who would like pull up dolls' dresses. And they were like, none of the children would play with you because you were the weird kid. And she knows. She knows Tia Timey is crazy.
He's scary.
He is. He's scary. He's very much a serial killer. Tia Timey is not an assassin. He's a serial killer.
So she fights him, And she throws him off of the tower, but
Since you
children's
cannot die in the
room,
realm
he
of
just
children,
disappears.
he just disappears. Same thing with the other gentlemen. They just disappeared. They didn't die. They just disappeared. And then Susan, the door that these ruffians were trying to open, the door opens for Susan. And she goes in and she sees the quote-unquote head tooth fairy, and she finds out it's a boogeyman.
Mm-hmm.
Something that she has fought with a poker numerous times.
Right.
And the poker is also kind of a theme. The fact that it's like you can be scared of something, but as long as you have a fire poker, you're going to be okay.
Right.
So it's like you can be scared of something, but as long as you fight it, you'll be alright.
So Susan saves the Hogfather.
Yes.
And
The auditors pretend to be wolves, and the Hogfather is literally a hog that is chased.
By the wolves.
Because back in the day, the tradition of Hogswatch was they sacrificed a hog. They did an honorable hunt, which that is taken from, what's the lore? It is Irish or Scottish. It's in Outlander, where they do like the big hog hunt for the year. Scottish, yes, thank you. Frasier, yes, that's very Scottish. They do this big hog hunt, and that helps the sun come back. And so...
It's like why the Hogfather is in charge of the sun.
Yes, and so Susan asks Death. Death shows up and basically lays into the auditors. He's like, you broke the rules first. And he's like, I played within the rules and I still beat you, so don't come back. Mm-hmm. But Susan asks Death, if, she's like, what would happen if we didn't save the Hogfather? And he's like, well, and he says the sun would not rise. And then she asks him later, she's like, would the sun really not have risen? And he's like, no, a big ball of gas and heat would have lit the world. And she's like, but that's the same thing. And he's like, no, it's not. You have to understand that the Hogfather is important to belief. Mm-hmm. And she's like, well, belief is not important. And he's just kind of like, really, show me one molecule of mercy in this world. He's like, it is important to believe the little lies of the world before you can believe the big ones, like justice and mercy. Because if you don't believe them, they can't come true. So it is important for the Hogfather to exist, because it lets children believe in the greater good of the world. Because there really isn't, like, if you look at it scientifically, goodness is not a molecule. Fairness is not a molecule. Hope is not a molecule. But it has to be something we believe in, even without the scientific evidence, so that way it can become true. And that's what I really like about the ending of the Hogfather. And Tia Timey obviously meets his ends at Death's Sands.
No, Susan.
Susan, yes.
She killed him with poker.
With the poker. And it is said that it's like, the children may not believe in much, but they believe in the poker. Which I think is a big thing. It's a weapon to fight their fears. Which I feel like you need as a child. You need something to fight your fears with. Yeah. It's kind of like Dementors. You need one happy thought to fight them. You need the tool. Right. Which, that is something that has really been speaking to me lately since I've been finding my depression crazy. You need one tool. And for me, that's been my husband and my dogs and my family and my friends. Those are my tools to fight my icky.
Right. So how many bottles did you give the Hogfather?
I really enjoyed it. The thing that, like, I really like it. It's pretty humorous. But it's one of those books that it really kind of makes you think. So I think I give it like a 3.25.
3.25. 3.25. I would give the Hogfather 3.5 stars. I wish I had finished it.
So it's 3.23.
I'm gonna sit down and finish it.
So it's 3.33 repeating. So it's like
3 2/3. The thing
I'm proud of myself for doing math.
I didn't finish it. I liked what I read. And it was very reminiscent of like Good Omens. I remembered a lot of.
I love Good Omens.
A lot of the tongue-in-cheek kind of humor, and a lot of the like treating the audience like they already know what's going on, even if they don't.
Yeah,
is very appreciated. but it's also can be a little overwhelming, especially when you're reading on a deadline.
Yeah.
But I think that I'm definitely going to finish the Hogfather, and I definitely enjoyed what of it I did read. And overall, yeah.
Yeah, please do.
3 2/3.
It's really good. I really like it.
Bottles of.
And I think the
whatever
reason I
your
like it
alcohol
so
choice
much is because it is stating something I need to hear right now.
Yeah.
Because you know.
And I think that's something we all need to hear is that finding something to believe in that will get you through the dark times, especially in the middle of the winter, whenever it's dark outside at 5 p.m.
And
like
Christmas is based off Saturnalia, which is the festival of the newborn sun. Mm-hmm. So Paul and I, obviously, instead of saying Merry Christmas, we look at each other and we're like, Happy Saturnalia!
Happy Saturnalia!
Happy Saturnalia!
So, read The Hogfather.
Yes, it's very good.
Probably read the other Discworld novels, but I can't speak for those.
The Color of Magic is very good.
And follow us on Twitter.
Yes.
Instagram or Facebook.
Yes, that would be great. Casey, take your forehead off the microphone.
I have a lot to do.
And we still have another episode to record tonight.
So anyway.
Yes, so
thank you for listening.
If you have paid attention to your feeds, you already know about the special episode that has already possibly aired.
Who can say?
Who can say?
Who can say?
Who can say?
Anyway, we're doing a birthday episode because my birthday is Christmas Eve, and no one ever pays attention to it because it's the day before Christmas.
But it's your birthday. Birthdays are important.
So, thank you for listening. Happy Christmas. Merry Saturnalia.
May you have a happy New Year.
Joyous New Year. Happy Hanukkah.
Hey.
Merry Kwanzaa.
The day this airs. 6 years cancer free, bitches.
Have a good night, folks.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. For more information, visit us at litliteraturePodcast.com or check out our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. And remember, too much work and no vacation deserves at least a small libation.
Cheers.